Hello, my name is Liz and you're watching For Booking Out Loud. So this video is a pretty long time in coming. On a lot of my booktube video wrap-ups, I have a lot of comments saying, how do you read so much? Or I'm always impressed by how much you do read. And honestly, it's been a lot of years of practice and just a lot of me learning how to read and maybe having no life because a lot of things. But ultimately, reading is something that I love to do, and I have come to the conclusion that I just have some really good reading habits that I've developed over however long I've been reading. So I have kind of cultivated 5 particular tips that I use to read, and I just want to pass them along to anyone who's interested. And I know there are a ton of videos out there on how to read more, how to be more consistent with reading, tips and tricks on how to read, which why you need to learn how to read if you're watching this video, I have no idea. That's just me, life. But I really do hope that some of these tips or one of these tips will help you become the reader you want to be. So let's get into it. I have about 5 tips in here that I think are pretty universal, but again, everyone is their own reader. So take that into consideration. So let's just get into this. So for me, my number 1 tip is that I always have a book present with me. For me, if I don't have a book present, I will not read. And when I say have a book present, I don't care if it's a physical book in my hand, in my purse when I go out. I don't care if it's an ebook that's on my phone or maybe my e-reader that's somewhere available. But if it's not easily accessible, I will not pick it up. And so I readily use Kindle so that I can easily go from my phone, which I'm filming on, or my Kindle, which I usually use when I'm at home. I don't usually take this out of my home. And sometimes I will take a physical book out with me if I'm leaving the home. And there you go. I always use audiobooks as well. And so if I'm driving to or from work, if I'm feeling in the mood, or if I'm working on really mindless tasks, whether that's at work or whether that's in the home, doing laundry, cleaning up, cooking, what have you, I'll pop my headphones in and I'll listen to a book. If it's readily available, therefore I will read. It's a lot like how TV can be readily available, whether it's YouTube on your phone or just on your laptop, so on and so forth. And that kind of leads into my tip number 2. I always have a TBR running. Because if you know what to read next, you'll always be looking forward to the next book. You'll always be looking forward to the next read. And in the same tip, honestly, I always have my next book queued up when I finish my last book. So if I'm reading a beautiful physical book and I finish that book, I will always come back into my home library or at my physical library and I have that next book ready to go. Because again, if it's not present, it will not be picked up. So on my Kindle, I always have the next book ready. On my audio, I always have the next book downloaded. My running TBR is continually growing. Therefore, I never run out of things to read, and I can always just hit to the next book. And if you couldn't tell, my number 3 tip is to have multiple books going at the same time. So my usual, habit is that I have 3 books going in 3 different formats. So I have my audiobook, I have my ebook, and I have my physical book. So for example, right now, I am reading House of Leaves for my physical book. On audio, I am reading Sadie by Courtney Summers. And on my ebook, I am reading The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Corners. It'll be right here. But that way I have 3 books to choose from. And if one book is not doing it for me on one day or at a single time, I can hop between them. And that also means I'm not going 3 times the speed, but at least I have 3 different books to run from. Not run from, but I have 3 different books going, and I'm always engaged in at least one of them. So there you go. And again, my next tip really goes back to my last tip. So number 4 is you need to switch between genres. If I read 50 books of romance, I don't think I would be reading as much as I do. I need to switch between genres, not only because I know books would blend together, especially if I'm reading 3 books at once. If I'm reading 3 romances, I would be pulling my hair out trying to figure out which character is supposed to be in which book. But also to keep myself engaged. If one book is going to be a horror book, I need one book to be a romance book, and maybe even switching between middle grade, YA, and adult books, because they're all so different. And so I find myself going and looking back at what I've read and saying, okay, I've read a ton of fantasy, because if you know me, I'm a huge fan of fantasy books. And maybe I need a nonfiction in my life. And so I'll pick a nonfiction book up. And if I am completely bored of nonfiction, maybe I want a horror mystery book. Or maybe I just need something a little more mindless. And I'm not saying they're mindless, but maybe easier to read, I'll pick up a middle grade, especially if I'm reading something that requires a lot of attention. And so you kind of get to know your favorite genres, you get to know your least favorite genres, kind of the type of books you like, what age level you like, because books are for everyone and you need to know your likes and dislikes, point blank. Now, number 5 might be kind of redundant, especially if you're watching this video, but I have always found a community to read with is essential to liking reading. Looking back on my history of reading, especially after I joined BookTube, my high volume reading points of my life have always been when I was surrounded by other readers. So my high school, middle school years, I had found friends that I saw every day that were also reading with me. When I was a student teacher at a reading middle school, I read over 100 books that year while I was in my master's program and while I was trying to teach for the first time in my life, quite badly, I might add. And now that I've joined BookTube, I'm also at a very high volume of reading because I have so much to talk about with everyone else on this community. I'm buddy reading, I'm joining book clubs, I'm joining readathons, and honestly, I just have people to talk to about books, and it's getting me excited about what I read. And so if you don't have any excitement to read a book, you have no motivation to read that book. Unless you're just excited to read it, which is also, perfectly fine. But having that other person to talk to or people is extremely motivating and just fun. And it makes reading itself fun when you have that community to fall back on. And so that's my fifth and really final tip, is just to have that community. And to just find it anywhere. If you have a book club that you read one book a year, that's perfectly fine. So just find something, because there's so much out there now. The biggest thing I can tell you is to not compare yourself to others. Your reading has value whether you read one book a month or 100. The fact that you are watching this video about reading shows that you care about the subject, and that should be all that matters to you. So I hope at the end of the day, this video helped you in some capacity, and that you just enjoy reading, no matter the volume. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe. But I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.